I had a friend who, at the time, hadn't succeeded at all yet, but who was really on the rise and who had something. He only flew first class. I'm not saying everyone should do this as it won't work for all, but he needed that. He did. Mentally, he wanted to travel first class to reinforce his belief that he was the best. Despite not having much money back then, he always insisted on flying first class. We used to criticize him. I said in 1997 that your house was not an asset, and it drove people crazy. It drove me crazy because it's a very widespread belief. But when you can no longer pay for your house, you realize it's the biggest debt you have. He's far more correct than you assumed, right? When you see what's happened to real estate prices. Donald and I love real estate. I think it's the best thing there is. Better than sliced bread. But if you don't know how to use it, it's like a loaded gun. You know you can protect yourself or you can kill. So real estate is for me the best thing. But you have to be smart because we resort to debt, and debt is the ultimate double-edged sword. So you resort to debt, I resort to debt. But the more you use it, the more you have to be smart in order to use debt to enrich yourself. Debt can also annihilate you. That's why I keep saying that we need financial education. Telling someone to get out of debt is not a good thing. You resort to debt, don't you? Debt is a good thing, and to become big and successful, debt is a very useful weapon, but you have to be very careful. Also, when people say you have to live below your means, you don't like living below your means, do you? And I think that when you tell someone to live below their means, you completely annihilate their spirit. Telling someone to follow a starvation diet to lose weight is like depriving oneself of food does not improve health. So I prefer to educate myself financially. That's why I read your books, because I want to feed my brain in order to be able to expand my means without getting excessively into debt. Debt is a double-edged sword, and living below one's means can be challenging. Start reducing expenses to avoid losing financial ground. I've never felt good doing it. I wanted to strive to do better each day. I want to do better each day. I love the good life, the grand life. You know the taxi under your jet? I was in my small jet a while ago, the Air. I look up and I see a 747. I say to myself, damn, you know, it's like big kids, big boys with their toys. But nevertheless, it inspired me. I thought, all right, I'm in my jet in the air. It's now time to take action. The jet won't bring me happiness. What will is the desire to improve myself, be smarter, and do better. I have a friend who, at the time, hadn't succeeded at all yet, but who was really on the rise and had something going on. He only flew first class. I'm not saying you should do this because it won't work for everyone, but he needed that. For him, mentally, he wanted to travel first class because mentally, he wanted to think he was the best, and that's it. And even if he didn't have a lot of money at the time, you know, this was years ago, he always flew first class. And we used to criticize him, but it put him in a good state of mind. And he became very prosperous, a man really very, very prosperous. And I always remember that he never flew in economy class. He always traveled in first class, even if he couldn't afford it. Training is complex, but do what's necessary. Anything that boosts your self-esteem, strength, confidence, and motivation to improve. I think that's really the problem. And we are at the stage of our current life. We don't demand more, but it's crucial to improve and feel better about ourselves. It's very important. That's why I don't advocate living below your means, saving money and such. Because, you know, shopping is fun. Beautiful houses are fun. And at the same time, you have to be very careful. You have to be responsible. Like when you invited us to your place, your little duplex here, or whatever you call it. We went there and I had never seen a 2-story house in New York. My wife, Kim, told me I never thought I would want to live in an apartment. But Trump's is spectacular. You see what I mean? End up yet is source around. I don't need this. If I had a nice room with a good television and bed in a building I had built, it was for learning, not out of necessity. So I told myself it was better to do it, and that I do. Well, instead of selling the equivalent of 12 or 13 units, I kept them. And by keeping them, I have them. I didn't sell them. And it's okay. And it became a very precious place, so you don't need it. I don't need it now, but there's something nice about it. That's my message. Reach it, then take it or leave it. If you don't reach it, you'll always be far from it. And that's why, once again, we need to redouble our efforts to live below these means. And I don't think that makes your mind very happy. It kills the spirit. Similarly, if you haven't received a financial education, when someone tells you that your house is an asset or that their mutual funds are good or that stocks are going up, you don't know how to differentiate between a good and a bad investment, because real estate can be a bad investment. Stocks can be a bad investment. If you can't distinguish good investment advice from bad, you'll get taken. This world is not tender, shall we say. The hardest thing I've witnessed over the past year is seeing people who are working very hard and being very careful, investing in stocks of very solid companies, not volatile ones, and their net worth represents 50% of what it was a year ago. And they've done nothing wrong so far. They're putting their money in stocks. So we can say it's a mistake, but it's not really a mistake, because historically it's always gone well. So they invested in conservative stocks, and a year later they were worth 50%. And all they did was work, and it's the hardest thing I've seen. It's a tragedy. What I mean is, you can invest in gold and lose money. You can invest in real estate and lose money. You can lose stocks and lose money. You can invest in oil and lose money. You can make a lot of money in these areas. If we collaborate, it's due to your financial intelligence, and intelligence quotient makes it so things either have value or don't. As I said, you must know how to distinguish a good investment from a bad one and good advice from bad advice.